Well, shalom, shalom. Welcome, welcome, world changers. And thanks again, Hannah, for the beautiful music. Thank you for blessing us once again with your beautiful talent. Live music, folks, from Hannah. Live music from Hannah. So here we are again, another evening. We are going to get into Joshua chapter 18. Now, just before I get too deep into it here, I just wanted to make sure all the settings are right. We had a little bit of difficulties here earlier, not in the same way as we did before. I think it was graphics drivers or something like that here. Anyways, we're here. We're ready and raring to go. I pray that everything that we share here today would be a great blessing to you, increase your knowledge of the scriptures, your knowledge of the things of heaven, relationship with God, and your knowledge of the truth. Amen, amen, amen. So, as usual, we're going to have a critical thinking segment talking about defensiveness. We all experience this to one degree or another. And then we're going to get into Joshua chapter 18, where we are in the grand scheme of things, if you will, in the big picture. And how that plays out, what we learn from that, comparing the ancient manuscripts, and of course there's going to be some variations as usual from the ancient manuscripts. All right, so let's see what we have here in the live chat before we get into it. We have Calamento says, shalom to all. Felix says, hi everyone. Chipmunk says, shalom everyone. The second verse says, shalom all. Al says, shalom all from Kick. Seek the Lord says, shalom. Al from YouTube says, shalom everyone. Cubert says, shalom. Al says, beautiful music always, Hannah. And Chipmunk says, wonderful job, Hannah. And Cuberts. All right. Well, blessings multiplied to y'all, multiplied to you and your families. And thank you as well, Al and Chipmunk and Cuberts. Let's get into the critical thinking segment about defensiveness here. Now, this coming Friday, I'm just looking at the calendar here. This coming Friday, this will be August 22nd, 2025. We're going to have our celebration live stream for 4 years. It's our 4th anniversary for going live virtually every day. And so we're going to have a special celebration this coming Friday. So we're looking forward to that. All right. Critical thinking for today. In critical thinking, we have many obstacles and enemies. But what is the most dangerous enemy of all? It's not something outside of us. It's a powerful, reflexive, and destructive force inside of us. It's defensiveness. Think about what happens to your body when it senses a physical threat. The fight or flight response kicks in. Adrenaline floods your system, your heart pounds, and your higher order functions shut down. You're not thinking about digesting your lunch or solving a complex puzzle. Your entire being is focused on one thing: survival. Our minds have the exact same reaction to a perceived threat to our ego and or our core beliefs. When a cherished idea is challenged, our brain sounds the alarm. The alarm is the feeling of defensiveness. And when it goes off, the rational, curious, truth-seeking part of our mind goes completely offline. The mind in quote-unquote fortress mode. The mind in fortress mode. Okay. The best way to understand the defensive mind is to picture a medieval castle under siege. The moment a threat is spotted, a challenging idea or a piece of criticism, a contradictory fact. The alarm bells ring. The heavy gates of the mind slam shut. The drawbridge is pulled up. Archers line the walls. In this state, the mind has only one goal: repel the attack. Nothing new is allowed to get in. The only things that come out are weapons, counter-arguments, excuses, personal attacks, and whataboutisms. When you are defensive, you are no longer in a state of analysis. You are in a state of combat. Your primary goal is no longer what is true. It has become, how do I win? This is the fundamental reason why defensiveness is the ultimate enemy of critical thinking. 3 ways defensiveness destroys your thinking. Defensiveness isn't just a bad mood, it's a cognitive poison. It systematically dismantles our ability to think clearly in 3 ways. Number 1, it blinds you to new information, the closed gate. A defensive mind cannot learn. It's an impossibility. When you are listening to someone who is challenging your view, you are not actually hearing what they are saying. Instead, you are scanning their words for ammunition. You are listening for a misstep, a logical flaw, or a poorly phrased sentence that you can use in your rebuttal. You could be presented with the most compelling, well-supported evidence in the world, but if your mental drawbridge is up, that evidence is simply bounce. That evidence will simply bounce off the walls. You literally cannot see what you are not willing to see. Number 2, it corrupts your reasoning, the war room. When the defensive alarm is pulled, your reasoning skills don't just switch off, they get hijacked for a new and dishonest mission. Your powerful intellect stops being a curious detective and becomes a brilliant, ruthless lawyer for your ego. This is called motivated reasoning. You start with your conclusion: I am right, and this threat is wrong. And then your brain works backward, cherry-picking evidence and inventing clever justifications to support that predetermined conclusion. You feel you are being perfectly logical, but you are actually using the tools of reason to serve the deeply irrational goal of ego protection. Number 3, it isolates you from growth, the lonely fortress. People are smart. They learn quickly. If every time they offer a different perspective, ask a challenging question or gently point out a flaw, you respond with a defensive attack, they will eventually stop trying. They will learn that it is not emotionally safe to be honest with you. The result? You inadvertently build an echo chamber around yourself. Your fortress becomes your prison, protecting you from the quote-unquote threat of new ideas, but also sealing you off from the fresh air and sunlight your mind needs to grow. The antidote. How to lower the drawbridge. What is the antidote? How do we disable this destructive reflex? The answer is a single powerful word: curiosity. You cannot be defensive and curious at the exact same time. They are mutually exclusive mental states. Curiosity is a master key that unlocks the fortress gate. The moment you choose to be curious, the defensive walls begin to come down. Step 1, recognize the feeling. Learn to identify the physical and mental tells of your own defensiveness. A tightness in your chest, a hot feeling in your face, the frantic urge to interrupt. The first step is to simply notice it without judgment. Ah, there it is. I'm feeling defensive. Step 2, force a question of curiosity. Once you notice the feeling, you must consciously and deliberately force your brain onto a new track. The most effective way to do this is to ask a genuine question. It can be as simple as, "That's interesting. What makes you see it that way?" Or, "Help me to understand your thinking on that." This simple act of asking a question is a system reboot. It disengages the quote-unquote flight or fight response and re-engages the rational, open, learning part of your brain. Today's challenge. Your challenge for today is to become an expert observer of your own defensiveness. Your mission is not to defeat it. That's too hard for one day. Your mission is to simply detect it. As you go through your day, in your conversations and interactions, pay close attention to those moments when you feel that internal wall go up. When you hear a comment you disagree with or a piece of feedback you don't like, just notice the feeling. Acknowledge it silently to yourself. There's that fortress feeling. That's it. The simple act of awareness is the first and most critical step in taking away its power over you. Today, just watch the gates. Just watch the gates. Chipmunk says, "Hope you got some relaxing in, Christopher. I accidentally got too much sun today." All right. That happened. I know the feeling. As far as relaxing goes, well, I don't know if I got a whole lot of that in today, Chipmunk. Chipmunk says, "It was cloudy out, decided to go for a swim, and then the sun came out." It's almost like, gotcha, tricked you. Chipmunk says, I was just watching some Karen and cop videos." Okay. I can just imagine what that would be like. Perfect definition of defensive for no reason. I still don't know where the term quote-unquote Karen came from. Well, yeah, those videos, you can certainly, I can certainly imagine the defensiveness. I've seen a few of those kind of videos before. So, yeah, definitely I can imagine some defensiveness going on there. Thank you, Chipmunk. I appreciate that. We are going to read Joshua chapter 18. I'm going to start with the World English Bible. This is a translation from the most common manuscript out there today. In the Western world anyway. In the Eastern world, we got a whole lot more of the Septuagint going on. But in the West, the Masoretic text basically is the most prevalent manuscript that we use to translate the scriptures. So the World English Bible is a translation of the Masoretic Hebrew text, otherwise known as the quote-unquote original Hebrew. It's not really original, but that's what they call it. And it's what most English Bibles are translated from: King James, New King James, NIV, NASB, CSV, ASV, RSV. So I'm going to read through this chapter, and then we're going to go through the manuscript variations as usual. I do have a little bit of a bonus at the end. I do have a chart that shows specifically the variations, specifically the Septuagint versus the rest of them. So we'll get to that, Lord willing, after we read through this, and also I want to go through the details of the manuscript variations as well before we get to the chart. But the chart will be a very it's a valuable resource for those of you who really want a visual of the variation specifically from the Septuagint. Okay, Joshua chapter 18. In the full context, in the big picture, we are nearing the end of the allotting of the lands, like this tribe gets this land, that tribe gets the other part of the land. So Joshua, he already went into the promised land. He already, they're basically in the process of driving out all of the current inhabitants and then taking the land. So we're getting towards the tail end of that whole thing. This is where we're picking up. Joshua chapter 18, verse 1. The whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled themselves together at Shiloh, and set up the tent of meeting there. So this is the tabernacle of Moses, if you will. Excuse me. Set up the tent of meeting there. The land was subdued before them. 7 tribes remained among the children of Israel, which had not yet divided their inheritance. So there's a whole majority of them, actually, that had not yet received their inheritance. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up that same map that we had the other day, because that map, I just need to get it up here. That map included Joshua chapter 18. Okay, so here we are, folks. This is the map that we had there the other day. And so you can see there are many different colors of many different dots, and all these colors are representative of different sections, portions of the scripture, if you will. The red, we got the red, which deals with, I believe it's Joshua chapter 15. Yep, Joshua chapter 15. And so each portion, or each tribe, if you will, has a different color coding here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all of the markings off of the map, except for what we're reading tonight, Joshua chapter 18. Okay, so this map, so we're right here now. This map starts with verse 11. So 11 to, so the square green dots are from Joshua chapter 18, verses 11 to 20. And then the other ones, the round green dots, are from verses 21 to 28. So there's nothing that represents what we're reading, specifically the actual verses that we're on right now. Okay, let me pull this up. There we are. Yeah, so once we get to verse 10, Benjamin's territory, and then it is, so Benjamin's territory from verse 11 to 20, and then 20 to 28. Okay, that's what we got, all the other dots. And so let's read from verse 1 through 10 first, so that we can get that out of the way, and then we're going to come back to the map. Okay, so verse 2. 7 tribes remained among the children of Israel, which had not yet divided their inheritance. So that's a fair amount, all things considered, because there were like 9.5 tribes up until this point on the west of the Jordan. And so we got the vast majority of them still didn't take their inheritance yet. Verse 3. Joshua said to the children of Israel, "How long will you neglect to go in to possess the land which Yahweh, the God of your fathers, has given you. This is striking that Joshua would lash out like this at the people. So it doesn't tell us how long they were basically sitting around twiddling their thumbs. It doesn't say, really. So it could have been a substantial amount of time. It was enough time for Joshua to get, to basically pull out the whip and say, what's going on with you guys? How long will you neglect to go in to possess the land? So why did these 7 tribes neglect? Is neglect a good word? We'll have a look at some of the other manuscripts later to see what the other manuscripts say. Verse 4, appoint for yourselves 3 men from each tribe. I will send them, and they shall arise, walk through the land, and describe it according to their inheritance. Then they shall come to me. They shall divide it into 7 portions. Judah shall live in his borders on the south, and the house of Joseph shall live in their borders on the north. You shall survey the land into 7 parts, and bring the description here to me. And I will cast lots for you here before Yahweh our God. Why would they cast lots? And what does that mean? As far as I understand it, this is pretty much a mystery as to what exactly this was, casting lots. I mean, historically speaking, I know a lot of people. Some people have their ideas of what it was, and some people believe that they know what it was. There's no details here as to exactly what that meant. However, we can be fairly certain that it was like it's almost like throwing dice, or flipping a coin, or flipping coins. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a random, at least at face value, like a random thing, casting lots. And this is what they did throughout the scriptures. And I say throughout the scriptures because I do have a list here. Now there is, where is it now? I'll pull it up. I do have a list here. I'm not necessarily going to go through this, but there is a list of times throughout the scriptures that they cast lots. So you can find that in Leviticus, Numbers, and 1 Samuel, a couple times in 1 Samuel, 1 Chronicles, Nehemiah, a couple times in Nehemiah, Esther, Psalms, Proverbs, a couple times in Proverbs, Jonah, Matthew, the book of Acts chapter 1 as well. Those, just a basic overview of some of the places you can find where men of God used this kind of system, casting of lots. In all of those books and in all of those places that I just mentioned briefly, you can find where they cast lots. And why did they do that? It's always to, it's a method that they use to determine the will of God. And it's always about choosing between, 2 or more different options. Like, for example, Jonah on the ship, so the people on the ship with him believed that the storm that they were experiencing was because of the wrath of God. So they're like, well, there's somebody on this ship that God is angry with. Who is it? They don't know. It's how can they tell just like that? So what they did was they cast lots, and the lot came to Joseph, or excuse me, not Joseph, Jonah. So it's always like that. Like when there's a couple, or let's say there's a whole flock of goats, or like there's a couple different goats that you have to choose from to sacrifice, or one would be the scapegoat. Well, you cast lots, and the lot that falls to the goat that's supposed to be the scapegoat, they take that as God is showing them through the casting of lots which one God wants, which one God chooses. So in this context, it says that they divided the land by the casting of lots. Think about this for a moment, because most people would consider Joshua to be a prophet. Yet being a prophet, and same with like in the Torah as well, like in Leviticus and Numbers, where Moses is a prophet, one of the, if not the greatest prophet in the Tanakh. And yet there are certain things that God just wouldn't directly tell him. A prophet is a man or a woman, prophetess would be a woman, that has a direct line, if you will, to God. They can hear the voice of God, or God communicates to them through visions, dreams, these kind of things. So a prophet is someone who has this direct line of communication to God, whether it's through words or pictures or visions, this kind of thing. In other words, they hear from God directly. But yet in the scriptures, we have people like Moses, like Joshua, and many others. As great as these prophets were, God didn't speak to them all the time about everything. God didn't speak to them directly all the time either. God spoke to them through different means and different ways. In this case, God spoke to Joshua through the casting of lots. It's almost like a random thing, like casting dice, throwing dice, flipping a coin. It's amazing because there are so many people here, there's so many Christians, they believe, and I know they're very well-meaning, but they believe that they hear from God all the time. Like they can just pray and God will speak to them all the time. Well, even the apostles, even the 12, like how dare anybody think that they're as good as or greater than one of the 12 disciples, those who actually walked with Yeshua in the flesh, who saw him, as it says in Peter, they basically handled him. They literally rubbed shoulders with him. They heard his voice. They saw the miracles. They got the teachings direct, not just through the Spirit, but through the flesh as well, if you will. And as it says in the Gospels, that Yeshua chose them to be judges over the 12 tribes of Israel. In the book of Revelation, it says that the heavenly city, the New Jerusalem, is founded upon the 12 disciples. The foundation actually has the names of the 12 disciples on it. There's nobody alive today. Anybody that would think that they are greater than the 12 disciples, or even as good as the 12 disciples in regards to how to communicate with God or their knowledge of Yeshua, I would beg to differ. Yet, even in the book of Acts, chapter 1, the very beginning, even Peter himself did not presume to just pray and hear from God like that. They at least not directly. Yes, they prayed, but God spoke to them through the casting of lots. Through the casting of lots. Which one, Lord? In Acts chapter 1, we have Matthias and we have Joseph. Both of them are equally eligible to replace Judas. Which one should it be? And God showed them Matthias is the one to replace Judas. That is confirmed, by the way, through the early church fathers. They all, the early church fathers say that as well as the fact that in the book of Acts there is, God never reversed that at all. He never rebuked them for doing what they did, because what they did was in accordance with the Tanakh. So the casting of lots is used here. I will cast lots for you here before Yahweh your God. So even Joshua, can you imagine this? You are the one who was basically Moses' shadow. Joshua, it says in the books of Moses, was always by Moses. He was basically the shadow of Moses. It's like he followed him everywhere. Joshua was like the Elisha to the Elijah. Can you imagine what Joshua saw with his own eyes as he followed Moses, as he was with Moses for a good part of the entirety of all of the mighty things that happened in the life of Moses? Yet he doesn't say, oh, I'm just going to pray here and God's going to just speak to me and then I'll just get the word directly from God. No. This is not a direct communication with God, as you see. It's the casting of lots. So this is amazing. They cast lots to determine who got what land. Now, here's another thing too. The tribes that we spoke of up to this point does not speak of the casting of lots. So they did not cast lots for those tribes up to this point, which is amazing. Because what do we have here? We have in Joshua chapter 17 the territory of Manasseh. Joshua chapter 16 the territory of Ephraim. Joshua chapter 15 the territory of Judah. Caleb's portion. Oh, hold on a second. Divided by lot. These are the inheritance with the... Okay, hold on a second. Maybe they did cast lots here. Sorry, folks. Hold on a second here. The subheading says divided by lot. Let me just double check here. I think it's just a play on words. Hold on. So I'm looking at here, Joshua chapter 14, verse 1 and verse 2. This is where it talks about it. Now, it just says their inheritance was by lot. So it doesn't say by the casting of lots, but this is this could very well be by the casting of lots. It's just that it doesn't say that they were cast. This is why it kind of tripped me up here a little bit, because it doesn't. If you search for casting lots, nothing will come up before Joshua chapter 14, chapter 18. So if you search for cast lots in Leviticus, Joshua 18 is the first time it talks about casting lots with those words. However, Joshua chapter 14 does say that their inheritance was by lot, which can be interpreted to be the casting of lots. So, correction there, folks. It could be interpreted to mean that. Although, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Like, for example, this is my lot in life. Does that mean that there was literally lots cast for my life? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. However, it could certainly include that. Okay. So, let me just rephrase what I said earlier to be accurate here. It doesn't talk about casting lots up until this point, although it does say that their inheritance was by lot in Joshua chapter 14. Okay. Back to Joshua chapter 18. However, the Levites have no portion among you, for the priesthood of Yahweh is their inheritance. Gad, Reuben, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance east of the Jordan, which Moses the servant of Yahweh gave them. The men arose and went. Joshua commanded those who went to survey the land, saying, "Go through the land, survey it, and come again to me. I will cast lots." So again, he says, "I will cast lots." So you see, excuse me, we have that in verse 6, "I will cast lots for you" here. And then in verse 8, it also says, "I will cast lots for you" here. So that whole scenario is not really painted out for us up until this point, although it could have been the case in Joshua chapter 14. Nowhere does it say that Joshua cast lots for anybody up until this point using that specific explicit terminology. Verse 9. The men went and passed through the land and surveyed it by cities into 7 portions in a book. They came to Joshua to the camp at Shiloh. Joshua cast lots. Here we go again. Number 3. It's the third time in this portion where it talks about Joshua explicitly and definitively with detail saying, cast lots. Joshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before Yahweh. There Joshua divided the land to the children of Israel according to their divisions. Now, Benjamin's territory. Verse 11, the lot of the tribe of the children of Benjamin came up according to their families. The border of their lot went out between the children of Judah and the children of Joseph. Their border on the north quarter was from the Jordan. Okay, let's go back to that. We'll go back to that map. Chipmunk says, ancient version of rock, paper, scissors. Yeah. Casting of lots. That's good. Thank you, Chipmunk. Okay, so we are on Joshua chapter 18, verse 11, right here. So in the big picture here, you see these. I know it'd be hard to see this on a cell phone or something like that unless you pinch zoomed it, but These are the areas right here that we're going to be talking about in the next, 9 verses. So we have the Jordan River right here. The Jordan River right here. So their border on the north was, on the north quarter was from the Jordan. Their border went up to the side of Jericho on the north, and went up through the hill country westward. Okay? So Jericho, right there. And so here's the Dead Sea, Jordan River, Jericho right there. And westward from Jericho. And it ended at the wilderness of Beth-aven, which would be the wilderness of Beth-aven. Where is it now? Right here. So we got Jericho here. So there's the Jordan River to Jericho, westward to Beth-aven. There's a question mark beside that name, so they're not entirely sure that's where it was. They think that's where it was, Beth-aven. Verse 13, the border passed along from there to Luz, to the side of Luz, also called Bethel. So L-U-Z, Luz, or Luz, Bethel, which is right there. So we have Beth-aven right there, and Luz/Bethel right there, just to the north, like northwest, or east of it. Not too far from that. The border went down to Ataroth Adar. Now, they don't have that on the map here. Oh, wait a second, they do, at the very bottom. Ataroth Adar, which should be right to the, would be southwest of Bethel/Luz. Ataroth Adar right there. Or Ataroth Adar. By the mountain that lies on the south of Beit Horon, the lower. Okay, so that would be right there. So we go from Jericho. Oh, hold on a sec. Where are we now? Yeah, that's Jericho. Jericho to Beth-aven, up to Bethel, or otherwise known as Luz, down to, now where was that? Oh, lower Beth Horon. Oh, here we are. A mountain that lies south, right there. The mountain that lies south of Beth Horon, right there. Verse 14, the border extended and turned around on the west quarter southward from the mountain that lies before Beth Horon southward, and ended at Kiriath Baal, that is Kiriath Jearim. Okay, let's go back to the map. And that's not on the map. No. Okay. A city of Judah. This was the west quarter. Verse 15. The south quarter was from the farthest part of Kiriath Jearim. The border went out westward and went out to the spring of the waters of Nephtoah. went out to the spring of the waters of Nephtoah, which I don't see on the map either. Verse 16, the border went down to the farthest part of the mountain that lies before the valley of the son of Hinnom. Okay, so the Hinnom Valley is right here. Okay, so we went from Jericho to Beth Aven to Bethel to where is it now? Over here. South of Beth Horon, right there, and then down to the valley of Hinnom, Gehenna, right there, just on the outskirts of Jerusalem. Fun fact, you guys know that Gehenna, like the valley of Hinnom, that's what it means. It's a valley of Hinnom. In certain places in the New Testament, it is translated as hell. Okay, Gehenna, hell. Can you imagine having your border, the border of my territory borders hell? So that's Benjamin. The border that went down from the farthest part of the mountain that lies before the valley of the son of Hinnom, Gehenna, which is in the valley of Rephaim northward. Okay, so the valley northward of Rephaim right there. I'm going to zoom in here. So we have the north end of the Rephaim Valley right here. And then there's the valley of Hinnom Valley right above it, right there. Right there. It's very specific here. It went down to the valley of Hinnom, to the side of the Jebusite, to the site of the Jebusite southward, and went down to En Rogel. So the shoulder of the Jebusites, if this is what it's talking about, is right there. En Rogel, right there, not too far from the shoulder of the Jebusites right there. And then there's En Rogel there, southward of that. So that matches. Verse 17, it extended northward, went out at En Shemesh, and went out to Gilelot, which is opposite the ascent of Adumim. En Shemesh. Okay, so En Shemesh, we're coming back eastward now. I don't see the other places on the map. It went down to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben. So we read about that before. The stone of Bohan, son of Reuben, right there. So we're coming back around, basically making a full circle here. Started at the Jordan, went this way around, all the way around this way, and then coming back here. We're getting closer to the Dead Sea again. Verse 18, it passed along the opposite side of the Arabah northward, and went down to the Arabah The border passed alongside Beth Hogla northward, and the border ended at the north bay of the Salt Sea at the south end of the Jordan. This was the south border. The Jordan was its border on the east quarter. This was the inheritance of the children of Benjamin by the borders around it according to their families. Okay. Yeah, there's the border all the way around it. Chipmunk says, the way my brain works, I see shapes easily. Looks like a fish pattern for the border. Oh, that's an awesome observation there. I did not notice that. Yeah, and you're right. You're right. It does look like a fish pattern. If I see it the same way you do, I think it looks like the tail is at the Jordan, right? And then it's facing toward the Mediterranean Sea. Yeah, Kubert says that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. That is cool. Absolutely. Is that what you see, Chipmunk? The tail at the Jordan, and then the mouth or the eyes looking toward the Mediterranean Sea? Do I have it right? Or do you see it a different way? Now, the next part is talking about the districts of Benjamin. Should I pull that back up on the map? The other one? And Chipmunk says, yep. At first, I was calling it a giant goldfish cracker. Oh, yeah. All right, yeah. Okay. All right, well, thank you. Okay, so we're doing the districts of Benjamin now. You know, I'm gonna highlight the other one as well, just to keep that fish in there. There we are, right there. I kind of. Huberts. Kind of makes it hard to pick out everything, so I just took that other one off of there. So verses 21 to 28. Joshua chapter 18. Now the cities of the tribe of the children of Benjamin. Now you watch it, guys. You watch. Now we're going to get to in a little bit. We'll get to the manuscript variations, and it's going to mess everything up, right? Okay. Joshua chapter 18, verse 21. Now the cities of the tribe of the children of Benjamin, according to their families, were Jericho, Beth Hogla, Emek Keziz. Okay, so we got Jericho right there, as we had earlier. Okay, not too far from the northern part of the Dead Sea, west of the Jordan River is Jericho. We got Beth Hogla right close to the closer to the Jordan River. And then we have Emek Keziz, which is up more northern. There's a question mark there, though. They're not entirely sure that that's where it was. Verse 22, Beth Araba, Zemaraim, and Bethel. Beth Araba, right there, close to the Dead Sea, the northwestern corner of the Dead Sea. Beth Araba. Zemarim, up more into the cluster, more northern. Zemaraim. And then we have Bethel. We had this earlier, right in the middle of things there. Bethel or Luz. Verse 23, Avim, Para, Ophrah. Avim with a question mark right there close to Bethel. Para, question mark there. So that'd be like the really northwestern corner of the whole lot there. And then Ophrah right there. Verse 24, Kephar, Ammoni, Ophni, and Geba, 12 cities with their villages. Kephar, Anomi, right there. Ophni, with a question mark there. Geba, right there, and right in the north, very much north. Geba. Sorry, folks. Verse 25, Gibeon, Ramah, Beeroth. Gibeon. This is in the district of Gibeon. Right there. Ramah, not too far from Gibeon. Ramah in the district of Gibeon. And Beeroth, right there. Again, they're all very close to each other, right in a cluster right there. Verse 26, Mizpeh, Kephirah, Moza. Mizpeh, right there, right in this, pretty much right in the middle of all of them, in the district of Gibeon. Kephirah, over to the west, probably the most western of all of them. Kephirah in the district of Gibeon there. Kephirah, Moza, there in the southern part of the cluster. Verse 27, Rechem, Irpiel, Taralah. Rechem, right there, southern part. Irpiel, right there, and right in the center of everything, pretty much. Still in the district of Gibeon. And Taralah, right there. District of Gibeon. Verse 28, Zela, Aleph, the Jebusite, also called Jerusalem. Here is a very interesting factoid for you guys. Jebus is another name for Jerusalem, you know? Jebus. So those who lived in Jerusalem would Zela, right there in the middle of it. We have Haelaf, right there. Again, pretty central to all of the cluster of cities. And then Jebus, right there. Jerusalem. Jebus. The last one, we didn't read it yet, but since we're here, it's only one more left. Right there, Gibeath Yerim, or Gibeath Jearim. Right there, almost the most westward, except for Kephirah. Now look at this. We got Gibeath and Kiriath. Whereas in the map it's Gibeath Jearim. So in the text here it's two different places, but in the map it's one. 14 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the children of Benjamin according to their families. Okay. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. We're going to deal with some of the manuscript variations. Chipmunk says, do those dots make its shape? Well, let me pull that back up and we'll have another look here at it before we move on. It's kind of hard to see it because these dots are pretty small, but okay, so here are all the dots. Let me pull it down here. There's all the dots. I don't know if you see anything in there. Just to zoom in. Got these dots over here going from the eastern part of it over to the west, or far over there to the north. I don't know if you see any Chipmunk says I'm going with spilled peas. Yeah, that's about it there. Yep, spilled peas. That's what we got here. Thank you, Chipmunk. Cuberts. Why did they call it Jebus? Very good question, Cuberts. So this is something that historically has been one of those things that can be debated amongst the historians and scholars. So the idea is that the Jebusites, which would have been a tribe of the Canaanites, that was their place, that was their city. So it was called Jebus, and so the people from Jebus was called the Jebusites. So after they drove the Jebusites out, they renamed it to, or they would call it Jerusalem. But then again, maybe I shouldn't say rename it, but rather, bring it back to its original, because back in the days of Abraham, it was called Salem, right? So the city was called Salem, And then apparently it was called Jebus after that, because that's where the Jebusites came from. And then back, now it wasn't called Salem again, but rather Jerusalem. Which, again, I understand that Jerusalem means city of Salem. As I understand it. Although that, like, the whole thing about Jeru, the Jeru prefix of it, is also something that is quite debated amongst historians and scholars. And some of them would say, well, Yeru means it's like Yaira, like a variation of Yaira, he will see, or the abiding place of God, Jerusalem. Other ones would say Yaru means a city, this kind of thing. However, it is, the Salem is still there from ancient times. So that is, yeah, that's why we got Jerusalem / Salem / Jebus. Jebus. Thank you for the question, Cuberts. That's an amazing question. You guys are awesome. So, the manuscript variations. So we're going to go through the manuscript variations here, and then I'm going to show you a chart, Lord willing. So we got a chart. I'm not sure if we're going to have really time to get to the chart or not. If not, maybe what we'll do is we'll do this chart another day, or through another means. Perhaps I can post this for you guys in another way. Yeah, Cubert says, very interesting. Learn something new every day here. Well, thank you, Cubert. I appreciate that. That's great. Praise God. Okay, manuscript variations. Let's get into it. It is quite the mixed bag we got going here, as you can imagine, especially with all these different names. Right from the very get-go, verse 1. Let's get it here and get it up. Verse 1, I'm going to start again with the WEB based upon the Masoretic text. So it says, the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled themselves together at Shiloh and set up the tent of meeting there. The land was subdued before them. The Septuagint says, all the congregation of the children of Israel were assembled at Selo, S-E-L-O, and there they pitched the tabernacle of witness. The land was subdued by them. So this is different. We dealt with this before. The tabernacle of witness versus the tabernacle of testimony, or meeting, I should say, because some places they call it the tabernacle of testimony, the tabernacle of witness. So different names for the tabernacle here is really what we're looking at. The Peshitta puts it this way: and all the assembly of the children of Israel were gathered together at Shiloh, and they pitched the time tabernacle there. The time tabernacle. Well, that's different, folks. Who knew? Chipmunk says of Cubert's question, that was a good question. Glad you asked. Yeah, it was a very good question. Awesome stuff. You guys are amazing. Amazing people. Time tabernacle. And the land had been subjugated before them. Vulgate says all the children of Israel assembled together at Silo, S-I-L-O, and there they set up the tabernacle of the testimony, and the land was subdued before them. So yeah, various names for the tabernacle, anywhere from tent of meeting tabernacle of the testimony to the tabernacle of witness to the time tabernacle. So what's up with this? So that this could simply imply a specific purpose or duration related to time. Maybe this is why that the Peshitta put this in there, the Syriac. But this might lead to a different theological interpretation of its function, or even a peculiar period of its use not conveyed by the other translations or the other manuscripts. Okay, so this is something that is very different, as you can see, than the other manuscripts. Makes a big difference. Can make a big difference. Let's go skip on down to verse 3. Joshua, this is from the WEB, Masoretic text. Joshua said to the children of Israel, "How long will you neglect to go in to possess the land, which Yahweh, the God of your fathers, has given you?" So it's how long will you neglect to go in to possess the land which Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of your fathers, has given you? Excuse me. So, Septuagint, verse 3. And Joshua said to the sons of Israel, "How long will you be slack to inherit the land, which the Lord our God has given you?" Well, that's a little bit different, to go from Yahweh, the God of your fathers, to the Lord our God. I want to make it a point that these different manuscript variations make a big difference, especially when you consider the fact that there were many people that they don't like, think about it this way, like even in the West, right? Even in, let's just say, the Western world today, North America and the Western world, most of us only have the Masoretic. Like most households would have a Bible and maybe the King James or some other Bible, but it's mainly just the Masoretic text, so they wouldn't know anything about the other more ancient manuscripts. Sergeant says, "Christopher, I sent over an email with 2 maps I found." Well, thank you. I'm just looking here to see where I haven't received it yet, Sergeant. Haven't received it. I'm not sure if it's taken a little while to get to me or not, and when you sent it, but I haven't received it yet there. But shalom and blessings multiplied to you and your family. By the way, Sergeant, good to see you. Welcome. Okay, now the Peshitta, the Syriac says, "And Yeshua said to the children of Israel, how long will you be slack to enter to inherit the land that Lord Jehovah, God of your fathers, gave to you?" Okay, so that's a little bit more, like that's more in tune with the Masoretic text. Vulgate, Yeshua said to them, "How long are you indolent and slack?" Well, wait a second. So that's different, quite a bit different than what we have here in the WEB, where it's just simply, "How long will you neglect to go in to possess the land?" So we got this indolent and slack, and not and go not in to possess the land which the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you. All right. Well, The Brenton is the odd one out here, not necessarily meaning it's the most inaccurate, but the Brenton, the Lord our God. So the Masoretic text, the Syriac, and the Latin Vulgate emphasize the covenantal and ancestral promise regarding the land. Yahweh, the God of your fathers, has given you. Whereas the Septuagint is less specific, so this does not, it might even diminish, if you would say, the emphasis on the historical covenant, especially in comparison like this. The next verse, verse 4, from the Masoretic Hebrew, appoint for yourselves 3 men from each tribe. I will send them, and they shall arise, walk through the land, and describe it according to their inheritance. Then they shall come to me. Septuagint, appoint from of yourselves 3 men of each tribe, and let them rise up and go through the land, and let them describe it before me, as it be proper to divide it. Syriac, choose for you 3 men from each tribe, and I shall send them, and they shall stand, and they shall walk in the land, and they shall map it corresponding to their inheritance, and they shall come to me. So that's more like the Masoretic text, as opposed to the Septuagint. It doesn't say anything about coming to me, so to speak. The Latin Vulgate, the Vulgate, choose of every tribe 3 men that I may send them. Wait a second. So it doesn't say in the Masoretic that he would send them. It just says let them rise up and go through the land. Or excuse me, that's the Septuagint. Masoretic does say, I will send them. So the Septuagint misses that one as well. The Syriac says, I will send them. That they may go and compass the land and mark it out according to the number of each multitude, and bring back to me what they have marked out. So the Septuagint again is the odd one out. So the Vulgate here, the way that it's phrased, it suggests that the division of the land might be based on the population size of each tribe, according to the number of each multitude. The other versions just focus on the inheritance, or the other manuscripts, I should say, just focus on the inheritance, corresponding to their inheritance in the Peshitta. Septuagint says, let them describe before me as is proper to divide it. The WEB, according to their inheritance. So the other, well, especially the Peshitta and the Masoretic Hebrew text, focuses on the inheritance part of it, whereas the Vulgate is more focused on the population size of the tribes, which you don't get in the other manuscripts. Verse 5, they shall divide it into 7 portions. Judah shall live in his borders on the south, and The house of Joseph shall live in their borders on the north. Septuagint. And they came to him. Wait a second. Oh, so the Masoretic text doesn't say anything about they came to him. Although in the verse before it says, and they shall come to me. But in verse 5 it doesn't say, and they came to him. But in the Septuagint it says, and they came to him. And he divided them to them seven portions. So this could be just a difference in the placement of the division of the verses, and also difference in the being receiving or giving of, there's either passive or active of them coming to him, or they actually came to him. Like, they shall come to me versus they came to him. Difference in tense. So the Septuagint says, and he divided to them 7 portions. Judah shall stand to them a border southward, and the sons of Joseph shall stand to them northward. Divided to them 7 portions. They shall. So in the Brenton it says he, that is Joshua divided to them 7 portions. Whereas in the Masoretic it's they shall divide it into 7 portions. The Syriac says, and they shall divide the land into 7 divisions, and Yehudah shall stand on its border from the south, and that of the house of Joseph will stand on their borders from the north. Vulgate. Divide to yourselves the land into 7 parts. Let Judah be in his bounds on the south side, and the house of Joseph on the north. So the big difference here is in the Brenton Septuagint again, or specifically the Septuagint, that this implies that Joshua had already, they came to him. Joshua had already undertaken or was about to perform the act of dividing the land into the portions for the tribes. But the other manuscripts indicate that they appointed men themselves, which were responsible for the division, making it a task for them, not for Joshua. So there is a contradiction, if you will. Those who would have only the Septuagint to go by, they would say, well, Joshua is the one who divided the land. Whereas the other people that have their Bibles based upon the other manuscripts, they would say, no, Joshua didn't do it. He designated the other people. He delegated the other men to do it themselves. They're the ones that did it. So this is, even though this is a subtle difference, it is an important difference in the agency and in the timing of the land division. Verse 6, Masoretic text, you shall survey the land into 7 parts and bring the description here to me. And I will cast lots for you here before Yahweh our God. Septuagint. Divide the land into 7 parts and bring the description here to me, and I will give you a lot before the Lord our God. I will cast lots for you before the Lord our God in the Masoretic, where I will give you a lot before the Lord our God in the Septuagint. The Samaritan, or excuse me, not the Samaritan, the Syriac And you shall map the land into 7 divisions and bring it to me here, and I shall show you the portion that is chosen before the Lord Jehovah our God. So there's no casting of lots. In the Syriac, no explicit casting of lots there. The Vulgate says, and the land in the midst between you mark you out into 7 parts, and you shall come here to me, that I may cast lots for you before the Lord your God. Wow. So, in the Septuagint, I will give you a lot. In the Syriac, I will show you the portions. Got nothing, no mention of lot or lots being cast or anything like that. It's just like as if Joshua already knows. He knows where everybody's supposed to go. Boom. I'll show you where you're supposed to go. So the Syriac's phraseology here, show you the portion that is chosen, implies a revelation or a designation of a predetermined or divinely selected portion rather than a random act of casting lots. This changes the nature of how the inheritance is determined from a process of chance guided by God to a direct divine revelation or a predetermined or pre-knowledge that Joshua already knew. Therefore, he didn't even need to cast lots here. Verse 7. Masoretic text. However, the Levites have no portion among you, for the priesthood of Yahweh is their inheritance. Gad, Reuben, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance east of the Jordan, which Moses, the servant of Yahweh, gave them. Septuagint. For the sons of Levi have no part among you, for the priesthood of the Lord is his portion. What? What does it say over here? Okay, so it says, for the priesthood of Yahweh is their inheritance. The priesthood of the Lord is his portion. And Gad and Reuben and the half-tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance beyond the Jordan eastward, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave to them. Syriac. Because there is not a division for the Levites among you, for its priesthood is of Lord Jehovah, their inheritance. Gad and Rubil, R-U-B-I-L, excuse me, and half-tribe of Manasseh, have taken their inheritance at the crossing of the Jordan from the east that Moshe, the servant of the Lord Jehovah, gave to them. So, the Vulgate says, for the Levites have no part among you, but the priesthood of the Lord is their inheritance. And Gad and Reuben and the half-tribe of Manasseh have already received their possessions beyond the Jordan eastward, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave them. So here again is the difference. The difference is the use of this phrase, his portion, in the Septuagint. For the priesthood of the Lord is his portion. So this could be interpreted ambiguously to either mean that it's the Lord's portion, that Levi is the Lord's portion, or it could be talking about the portion of Levi as an individual, or the sons of Levi. Because we read this before in a previous passage where it talks about that they are the inheritance of the Lord. So all the other manuscripts, their inheritance. The Syriac, their inheritance. The Vulgate, their inheritance. Which show us that the priesthood is a collective inheritance of the Levites as a tribe, and not just his portion, which could be interpreted also as just only Levi himself, or one person, as in the Lord, or Levi himself, and not their inheritance. Verse 10. Joshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before Yahweh. There Joshua divided the land to the children of Israel according to their divisions. Septuagint. And Joshua cast the lot for them in Selo, S-E-L-O, before the Lord. So it doesn't say anything about Joshua divided the land for the children of Israel according to their divisions. It doesn't say that in the Septuagint. It's missing. The Syriac. And he cast lots for them in Shiloh before Lord Jehovah, and Yeshua divided there the land into divisions for the children of Israel. Vulgate, verse 10. And he cast lots before the Lord in Silo, S-I-L-O, and divided the land to the children of Israel into 7 parts. So we have the Septuagint, one more time, is the odd one out because it leaves out everything else. It leaves out the last phrase of this, or the last sentence of that verse. There Joshua divided the land of the children of Israel according to their divisions. That's not found in the Septuagint. Verse 12. Masoretic text. Their border on the north quarter was from the Jordan. The border went up to the south side of Jericho on the north, and went up through the hill country westward, and ended at the wilderness of Beth Aven. Brenton. And their borders were northward. The border shall go up from Jordan behind Jericho northward, and shall go up to the mountain westward, and the issue of it shall be Bathon of Madara. Bathon of Mabdara. The Masoretic says it ended at the wilderness of Beth Aven. So we got the wilderness of Beth Aven versus Bathon Mabdara in this Septuagint. The Syriac says, and their border was from the north side of the Jordan, and the border went up to the south, or to the side of Jericho on the north, and went up into the mountain to the west, and its limits were to the wilderness of Beit Awan. Beit Awan. So there's still the wilderness of Beit Awan, which would be very similar, pretty much the wilderness of Beit Awan, even in the Masoretic text. The Vulgate says, and their border northward was from the Jordan, going along the side of Jericho on the north side, and there going up westward to the mountains and reaching the wilderness of Bethaven. So, of course, again, the Septuagint is the odd one out. And this can be viewed as a significant geographical discrepancy, because the Septuagint lists a specific place by name, Bethon of Mabdara, which contrasts with the other ones that say the wilderness of Bethaven. So this can directly impact the precise understanding of the northern border of Benjamin's territory. Okay, verse 14. The border extended and turned around on the west quarter southward from the mountain that lies before Beit Horon southward, and ended at Kiriath Baal, and also called Kiriath Yearim, a city of the children of Judah. This was the west quarter. The Septuagint says, and the border shall pass through and proceed to the part that looks toward the sea on the south, from the mountain in front of Beit Thoron southward, and its termination shall be at Kiriath Baal, that is Kiriath Yearim, a city of the children of Judah. This is the part toward the west. The Syriac says, and the border faced the side of the sea from the south of the mountain that faces Beit Koran in the south, and its limits were on Kiriath Baal, which is Kiriath Nahrain, Nahrayn, the city of the children of Yehuda. This is the sea, the side of the sea. This is so different. I mean, look at this. So in the Septuagint, this is the part toward the west. The Syriac, the city of the children of Yehuda, this is the side of the sea. And we got Kiriath Nahrain, whereas in all the other ones is Kiriath Yearim, Kiriath Jearim, if you will, or Jerin, Yerin. So the Syriac Kiriath Nahrain, so different. Vulgate, and it bends there, going around towards the sea, the south of the mountain that looks toward Beth Horon to the southwest, and the goings thereof into Kiriath Baal, which is also called Kiriathaim, a city of the children of Judah. This is their coast towards the sea westward. So this is kind of like a mixed bag of all of them, which makes sense as we understand that Jerome, the one who translated the Vulgate, had various of the major manuscripts in front of him as he was doing this. So what's the big difference here? The Syriac, especially this Nahrain, compared to Jerim, or Yerin, Nahrain, very, very different. So it could be as serious as a different geographical point, making the western boundary, taking it to a different place, potentially altering the size the border of Benjamin's territory. Verse 15. Masoretic text. The south quarter was from the farthest part of the Kiriath Yearim. The border went out westward and went out to the spring of the waters of Nephtoah. Septuagint. And the south side of the part of Kiriath Baal, and the border shall go across Gazin, Gasin, Gasin, to the fountain of water of Naphtah. To the fountain of water of Naphtah. Oh. The differences, folks, are so vast. These differences are so incredibly vast. It's just like mind-boggling how different we got some of these texts. It's just amazing. Okay, so yeah, back to the text here. We got verse 15, in the side of the south from the end of Kiriath Nachrain, and the border of the sea went out, and it went out to the spring of the waters of Naphtali. Naphtali? In the Masoretic, it's Nephtoah. Huh? And in the Septuagint, it's Naphtho, and Naphto, Naphtho. So the Syriac has got Naphtali. Naphtali. The Vulgate says, but on the south side of the border goes out from part of Kiriathaim towards the sea and comes to the fountain of the waters of Nephtoah. Nephtoah. Wow. Very different. So what we have something not just different, but we have something that is an added detail that we don't have in any of the other texts in the Septuagint. This inclusion of Gasin. This adds a specific landmark that is absent from all the other manuscripts. So this provides additional geographical detail for the southern border that the others do not. Verse 16. The border went down to the farthest part of the mountain that lies before the valley of Hinnom. Kubert says it is. All right, thank you, Kubert. The border went down to the farthest part of the mountain that lies before the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is in the valley of Rephaim northward. It went down to the valley of Hinnom, to the side of the Jebusite southward, and went down to En-Rogel. Okay. So the Septuagint says, and the border shall extend down on one side. This is the front of the forest of Sonam. The forest of Sonam. Where'd this come from? In front of the forest of Sonam. Is that anywheres? So in the Masoretic text, it says that lies before the valley of the son of Hinnom. Gehenna. But here we got, in the Septuagint, it's the front of the forest of Sonam. Wow. Which is on the side of Emek Rephaim northward. Emek Rephaim northward. Where's that found in the Masoretic text? Oh, I see. So it could be like, which is in the valley of Rephaim northward. But Rephaim, the valley of Rephaim northward, is so different than Emek Rephaim northward. And then it goes to say, it shall come down to Gehenna. Gehenna behind Jebusai southward. And it shall come down to the fountain of Rogo. Wow. Wow. Different as different. I'm about to, it's like I want to engage in, what do they call it? The figure of speech. I just can't come to mind right now. Yeah, so this is so different, folks. This is really, really, really different. I mean, check it out. The Syriac says, and the border came down to the end of the mountain before the face of the valley of the son of Hanum, that is from the north, and came down to the border of the son of Hanum, which is the deep valley of the giants, that is at the north, and went down to the border of the son of Hanum to the side of the Jebusites at the south, and went down to Ein Dugul. Wow. Now the Vulgate says, and it goes down to that part of the mountain that looks on the valley of the children of Enom, and is over against the north quarter in the furthermost part of the valley of Rephaim, and it goes down into Genom, that is the valley of Enom, by the side of the Jebusite to the south, and comes to the fountain of Rogo. Okay, well, the Septuagint is scoring a home run after a home run here, one after another, as being the very different one. So the Septuagint's got something in here that's just, again, another inclusion that's not found in any of the other manuscripts, the forest of Sanam. Unique geographical feature that is not present in the other texts. Again, this could imply a geographical feature or a landscape that could lead to a different understanding of the terrain and of the interpretation of the border of Benjamin. Verse 17. It extended northward, went out at En Shemesh, and went out at Geliloth, which is opposite the ascent of Adumim, and it went down to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben. Septuagint. Oh, this is pretty short compared to the other one. And the border shall go across to the fountains of Beth Samis. Wow. That's different. Syriac. And it faces the north and goes to Mabu Shemsha, the spring of the sun, and goes to Galilee, which is next to the ascent of Ramin, and went down to Leban and to Bahan, the son of Rubel. Look at the difference between the size, the detail, the content of verse 17 here in the Syriac compared to the Septuagint. The Septuagint is just one short sentence. The Syriac is like one extremely long sentence. 1, 2, 3, 4.5 lines versus 1.5 in the Septuagint. The Vulgate is also very short, passing thence to the north and going out to Ensemes, that is to say, the fountain of the sun. Wow. So we've got significant differences here. Again, that could alter the border of Benjamin. The historical identifications, the geographical borders, lots of stuff going on here. Verse 19. The border passed along the side of Beth Hogla northward, and the border ended at the north bay of the Salt Sea at the south end of the Jordan. This was the south border. So I want to direct your attention here to this right here, passed along the side of Beth Hogla. Passed along the side of Beth Hogla northward. Let's go to the Peshitta. Verse 9. And to the border passed along the side of Beit Hogla. That would be the same thing. From the north. And the limits on the borders were on isthmus of the salt of the Sea of Salt from the north, and upon the banks of the Jordan from the south. This is the border of the south. Wow. Differences. Isthmus of the Sea of Salt from the north. What? Wow. Okay, so the Vulgate, verse 19, it passed by Beth Hogla northward, and the outgoings thereof are toward the north of the most salt sea on at the south end of the Jordan. Okay, so check out this. So the Septuagint says, at the termination of the borders shall be at the creek of the Salt Sea northward to the side of the Jordan southward. These are their southern borders. Nothing about Beth Hogla, nothing like that. So the Masoretic has this whole phrase, passed along by the side of Beth Hogla northward. Peshitta, passed on the side of Beth Hogla from the north. The Vulgate, passed by Beth Hogla northward. Septuagint, not there. It's just not there. This impacts the completeness and precision of the border description for Benjamin's territory in the Septuagint compared to the others. Now, there are so many differences here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go on fast forward here, because these names from verses 21 to 28 vary vastly, as you can quite imagine, throughout all of these texts. So let's just fly through these. Take a look at these. Let's start with verse 22. We have, in the Masoretic text, Betharaba, Maim, and Bethel. The Septuagint, Betharaba and Sarah and Bethsana. What? It's not found in the Masoretic text at all. Syriac, it says in Betharaba and Samaraim and Bethel. So similar to that of the Masoretic, the Vulgate is also similar. Betharaba and Samaraim and Bethel. But the Septuagint, where does this come from? Sarah and Basana. Major difference in the named cities here. Next, well, let's skip verse 23, verse 24. Kephar Ammoni, Ophni, Geba, 12 cities with their villages. Okay. Whew. All right. Well, Septuagint. Carafa instead of Kephar Ammoni. It's Carafa and Kephira and Moni. Kephara and Kephira and Moni instead of Kephar Ammoni and Ophni. And Gabaa with the double A instead of Geba. And then it says 12 cities and their villages. Let's see if this matches up with the Masoretic. It does. 12 cities with their villages. Okay. Syriac, it says, and Kafar Umka. I'll try that again. Kafar Umka, and Ophli and Gaba. 14 cities. What? 14? It says 12 in the Septuagint and also says 12 in the Masoretic. 14 in the Syriac. 14. That's a difference. Yeah, it's a difference there. Vulgate says the town of Ammona and Ophni and Gebi, 12 cities and their villages. So if this time the Syriac is the odd one out, saying 14 instead of 12. And well, I mean, what do you do with the Septuagint with all these names, all Kephara and Kephira and Moni instead of Kephar, Ammoni, and Ophni? Okay. Verse 26. Let's go down to the verse 26. Mizpah, Kephira, and Moza. So the Kephira that Septuagint has in verse 24 is actually in verse 26 of the Masoretic text. Mizpah, Kephira, Moza. Now the Septuagint says in verse 26, Masema and Miron and Amok. Masema, Miron, Amok versus Mizpah, Kephira, and Moza. Wow. And the Syriac says Rechem and Raphael and Tarala. Rechem and Raphael and Tarala? Wait a second. Sorry, folks, I got the wrong one. It's Mespea, Kephira, and Metzah. Matspea, Kephira, and Metzpah. Which is similar, slightly similar to the Masoretic, but of course not so much with the Septuagint. The Vulgate goes on to say Mezpeh, Kephara, and Amosa. Mezpeh, Kephara, Amosa, very similar to the Masoretic text. So the Septuagint, again, is the odd one out here. It is so far different. It looks like that the names are in different order and all kinds of stuff. Whereas, well, the Syriac, it's even different numbers. 14 cities in verse 24 instead of 12. Wow. Differences. So, the Brenton lists Miron and Amok, wherever that comes from. Okay, so much differences. It's hard to keep up with this. Two more verses, folks. One is these three names: Rechem, Irpeal, Ta'arla, Tarala. In the Septuagint, or excuse me, the Masoretic text: Rechem, Irpeal, Tarala. Rechem, Irpeal, Tarala. Septuagint: Phira, Kafan, Nakan, Selakan, Terela, Uh, well, I think we got a few more here, folks. So we got 3 names in the Masoretic text and 5 names in the Septuagint. And it doesn't even look like, well, do any of them match? Do any of them match? So the Septuagint, Tere'ela, could be something like Tarala. Yeah, so that seems to be a match there. But what else do we have? Irpiel? Is that in? I don't see that anywhere. Nothing like that in the Septuagint. And Rechem, anything like that in the Septuagint? Nothing. 1 out of 5. We got 1 out of 5 here. Syriac. Rechem, Raphael, and Tarala. So Rechem, Raphael. Masoretic is Rechem, Irpeel. Very different. Irpeel, Irpeel versus Raphael of the Syriac. Raphael, as in the angel Raphael. Vulgate says Rechem, Yarafel, and Tarela. Wow, this is amazing differences here. Oh, very much. Last verse, folks. Verse 28. Zela, Aleph, the Jebusite, also called Jerusalem, Gibeath, and Kiriath. 14 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the children of Benjamin, according to their families. Ooh. Brenton says, and Jebus, this is Jerusalem, and Gabaoth, Yarim, 13 cities. Wait a second. It says 14 in the Masoretic. The Septuagint says 13 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the sons of Benjamin according to their families. So we got a couple things too. We got Yabaoth, or excuse me, not Yabaoth, Gabaoth, and Yarim. Is that in this? Is that in the Masoretic? Gibeath, it could be the Masoretic. What about Yarim? Yeah, Kiriath. We don't have Yarim. Syriac, Zala, Gebira, and Yebus, which is Jerusalem, and Gabath and Kiriathim, 14 cities and their fields. So 14, Masoretic 14, Syriac 13, or Septuagint 13. So Syriac 14, Masoretic 14, Septuagint 13. Vulgate. And Selah, Aleph, Jebus, which is Jerusalem, Gabaoth, and Kiriath, 14 cities with their villages. This is a possession of the children of Benjamin by their families. So, with all of these extensive variations in the city names, and the final counts of the cities, 12, 13, 14, 12 here, 13 there, 14 here, represent fundamental differences. Fundamental differences in the geographical composition and the extent of Benjamin's inheritance. Wow. What a difference here we have. What a difference here we have. Amazing. All right, folks. Well, that'll be it for tonight. That's what we have here. So that's Joshua chapter 18. Tomorrow, Lord willing, we'll be doing Joshua chapter 19, Simeon's territory and Asher's territory and Naphtali's territory, and Joshua's inheritance. Chipmunk says, love this study. Thank you, Christopher. The differences in linguistics I wish I knew. Probably lots of hidden gold nuggets just on the names alone. Thank you for your time, Christopher. Good rest. Thank you, Chipmunk. I'm glad it's a blessing to you, and blessings multiplied to you as well. Good rest as well. Blessings, blessings. Have a wonderful night. Okay, so folks, if you haven't already, please leave a like, subscribe, and follow. We will see you, Lord willing, tomorrow for another chapter of the territories and different names and such. In Joshua chapter 19. Pretty soon we'll get to Joshua chapter 20, cities of refuge, which is a short one. Chapter 21, the 48 cities of the Levites. So Joshua is full of all of these very detailed accounts of all these different allotments of the cities and the borders and all that kind of stuff. Tribes beyond the Jordan return. Okay, those are the tribes that came to help their brothers out. That's in Joshua chapter 22, and the offensive altar, Joshua 22. We'll get to that, Lord willing. Hopefully all this coming week. Joshua's charge to the leaders in Joshua 23. And then Joshua 24, the last chapter. Joshua reviews Israel's history. So there we got a history review. Joshua's death and burial at the very end of the book of Joshua. All right, guys. Yeah, so this coming Friday, again, the 22nd, we're going to have a special celebration live stream. 4th year of doing this kind of thing, almost daily. Okay, and over 2.5 million views during that period of time as well. So we'll be celebrating that this Friday. Friday. Seek the Lord says, thank you for your time this evening, Brother Christopher. God bless you and all here richly and abundantly. See you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Seek the Lord. God bless you more. Blessings multiplied to you and your family. Chipmunk says, good rest to all, many blessings, and hungry thirst for the word. Awesome. Yes. Amen to that. Thank you, Chipmunk. Al says, enjoy your study. Thank you always for your works, and great to see more of the word. Shalom, everyone who came and support. Good night, all. God bless. Thank you, Al. I appreciate that. God bless you abundantly. Blessings multiplied to you and your family. And Cubert says, great study. Thank you. Blessings all. Thank you, Cubert. Blessings multiplied back to you and your family. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. That's 7:30 p.m. New York time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Leave a like and subscribe. Follow if you haven't yet, as we do this every single day. Almost 4 years to the, well, this coming Friday be 4 years to the day. It's going to be awesome. I'm thinking of some surprise content for you guys on Friday. We'll see what happens, Lord willing. Anyways, keep on calling on him, and he will show you great and mighty things that you don't know. Jeremiah 33:3. Love you guys. World changers. Good health and long life to you. I pray the Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face to shine upon you. Lift up his countenance upon you. And give you wonderful, wonderful shalom. Amen, amen. We'll see you guys tomorrow.